Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Lisa Scott, and I'm going to be your moderator today. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us during this conference. I'm going to introduce today's Africana Women Working Group at the UN 2020 First Ladies Shared Forum, UNGA 75 Session Side Event. And our theme today is Shaping Peace Together. As we know, today is Global Peace Day, and we should all be very honored to have this opportunity to be able to present in an international level. I wanted to start this morning by just a really quick prayer, if that's okay with everyone. I think that the current state of our world today, we certainly do need all the prayers that we can get. Prayer for world peace. O Lord God, we pray for peace and love in all the nations among all the people, that all wars and hatred will end. We pray for those who suffer from war, injustice, and intolerance, and suffering from the COVID-19. For the children, young people, the poor, and neglected ones. We pray for peace in our life, lands, nations, families, and in our hearts. Lord, give us world peace. We ask your mercy in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Our opening session, today we're going to begin with a video presentation of the ringing of the bell, the peace bell, and the 2020 UN Day of Peace message from the Secretary General.
Peace is never a given. It is an aspiration that is only as strong as our conviction and only as durable as our hope. It can take decades, even centuries, to build peaceful, stable societies. But peace can be squandered in an instant by reckless, divisive policies and approaches. 75 years ago, the United Nations was founded with the overriding goal of preventing war and promoting peace. Since then, we have deepened our knowledge on how to fulfill that noble mission. We have solid evidence that human rights, respect for the rule of law, access to justice, and opportunities for all are the building blocks for peaceful communities and societies.
Today we stand separated and masked. The pandemic has brought unexpected levels of misery and hardship to many. But it is the most vulnerable who suffered most, and still suffering, both in conflict and at the hands of this disease.
Next up, we have the UN and World Women Journey so far by Dr. Phyllis Court, retired UN diplomat.
Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome. I am Phyllis Court, former United Nations staff member, still actively involved with the organization. I came here as a member of the Africana Women's Working Group 2020, First Ladies Shared Forum, to discuss the UNGA 75 and gender roles in shaping peace together. The African Women Working Group is uniquely positioned to address the global health and racial pandemic that confronts us at this very moment in this tumultuous time. As a member of the United Nations, we can draw from the highest minds in the health and racial sectors to ensure that solutions are tailored to the needs of our commitments, which have been hardest by this pandemic. In addition, we must all address the racial inequities that have been exposed by this pandemic and current racial tensions. We as women of the Africana diaspora have been and will continue to be the foundational structure of this global initiative. We as women are the nurturers of our earth, and we must continue to keep our vision and focus to address our health and racial pandemic. As inspiring African women, we must simply desire to always produce forward-thinking solutions to empower and nurture a better world. As women, we must strive. We must strive to live our lives free from definitions, constraints, attachments to generally accepted ideals, and stereotypes of 20 and success. One of our global committee can only be reset. This is very important, by the inclusion of women in discussions to develop solutions that address not only the economic, but the social and environmental issues that need to be addressed at this moment. Women are caregivers, are unequally positioned to provide a fresh perspective on solutions that can effectively address these issues. In all things, be kind. As the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, may she rest in peace. And I quote, when a thoughtless or unkind word is spoken, best tune out. Reacting in anger will not advance one's ability. Women know your worth and do not demean your standards. As women, ask of ourselves these questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And what do I want to do and to achieve when I get there? A woman provides the foundation of power. A woman provides the foundation of grace. A woman provides a foundation of wisdom. A woman provides the foundation of justice. A woman provides the foundation of creativity. A woman provides the foundation of hope. Let us all as women remain focused, remain diligent, remain confident, remain inspired.
Very profound. As you can see, that this is a time for women to stand up and to come together and to be heard and to create the change that the world so desperately needs. So we thank you again for that, Dr. Court. At this time, we'll be introducing Her Excellency Reverend Dr. Bakwe Burnley, Department of Women and Leadership Affairs, International Consulting Cabinet. She will be giving the overview of Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I want to send greetings to all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for making the time to be here with us as we have these very important, pertinent conversations about the future of the lives of women and girls going forward. What would the next 25 years look like? I want to talk today about the Beijing Declaration and the next 25 years. But first, I want to start by taking an overview, a look at what has been achieved so far. So 25 years ago, 30,000 women from all over the world gathered together in righteous anger to stand against the inequality against women. Well, these women did channel their anger in a positive way. They didn't just end up with banners and chanting in the streets. They ended up coming up with 12 major pillars around which considerations had to be made if meaningful, permanent change has to happen in the lives of women and girls globally. And so I'm going to take a look at each one of those 12 pillars, and I'm going to give us an update of what has happened so far. But before I even go into that, I really want to appreciate UN Women, who have been tremendous in the job of monitoring and assessing the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and the platform of action. And so some of the information and the analysis and the statistics and data that I'm going to talk about today is gotten from the UN Women and their archive of valuable information, as well as other archives from organizations like the BBC, CNN, UNICEF, and the Forbes 500. So looking back 25 years ago, what has been achieved in the area of women and poverty? I'm glad to announce that every developing nation has seen a reduction in poverty rates. There's still a lot left to be done, but at least due to more access to financial services, more access to land and property and productive resources, access to education, we have seen some progress in that area. However, unfortunately, as we know, the COVID-19 pandemic has put a damper on things, and I'm not going to go too much into that because I know that we have other panelists who are going to speak more on that. Concerning education and the training of women, again, gender parity in primary education has been achieved in 88 out of 102 countries. We are encouraged to hear that. Almost gender parity in secondary schools has been achieved as well. Now, again, in the same time, women have accounted for a majority of the graduations or graduates in the fields of education. Concerning women and health, women's life expectancy has increased from 67 years to 73 years in that time. That is quite significant because of policies that had been put in place to help better the health of women. In terms of women and economy, 2019 Fortune 500 listed 33 women as CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. That leaves a lot to be desired, but that is significant. That is something that we should be encouraged and press onto. And then also they enlist that today, women hold 25.5% of seats in the board of directors in those companies. That too is significant. I want to encourage us furthermore with the information concerning women in power and decision making, that women's political representation and participation in parliaments have increased. And in some nations, even in parliaments, they have parity already. So that is wonderful. We thank God that even through training sessions for leadership for women and mentoring, like the ones organized by the United Nations Women and other organizations, we have a situation where a woman like Lisa Bosnia, 28 years old, became elected as one of the first Roma women councillors in Moldova. And I have here a list of women. I don't know if we could scroll. Whoever is handling the PowerPoints, please, could you scroll to the list of women in charge? Thank you. Now, this is from an article written by the Time newspaper, where they have the list of 13 women in charge. These women are presidents and prime ministers of their nations. So I just want us to applaud them and to applaud the Beijing declaration that their work has not gone in vain. I also want to continue to talk about institutional mechanisms for the advancement of women. And I want to know that 25% more women are in parliament today because of what happened and the decisions and the declarations and the plan of action that was put in place in Beijing 25 years ago. I also want to say and announce with joy that recent studies from 59 nations show that 35% of the workforce in media is women. I want to also declare with joy and with hope that there is hope for the girl child because of gender responsive legislations and policies that have been put in place, because more women are in parliament, because of gender parity in primary education in all the regions, and almost gender parity in secondary school education in most of the regions, there is a better foundation laid up for the girls. However, I want to come to the areas of the 12 important pillars where progress has been stagnant and in some cases even regressed, and in some cases terribly slow. So in the area of violence against women, it is sad to announce that 35% of women worldwide have experienced either physical and or sexual violence in their lifetime. It is also sad to announce that 50% of female homicide victims are killed by their intimate partners or family members. I want to stress the anguish that it is sad to know. I would dare to say these women died twice. Died first of heartbreak, knowing that their home, a place of sanctuary, the relationships that they had, intimate relationships with people that were supposed to uphold and support and help them, ended up being the place of their death. So they died of a heartbreak before their bodies finally died. I regret also to announce that 125 million girls and women have undergone some form of female genital mutilation or cutting. This horrific number comes from only 29 countries across Africa and the Middle East. I regret to inform us that as of October 2014, in spite of 40% of ambassadors in the Security Council being women, we still have a situation where women are still subject to violence because of protracted crisis, because of poverty and inequalities, violent extremism. I also regret to announce to us that the human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. As First Lady of the United States of America, Hillary Clinton said. However, here we are today, 25 years after, still talking about the rights of women. I hope to inspire us to a more aggressive, a more focused and committed move so that in the next 25 years, we will actually change that statement. We will actually declare that it is finished. Women have human rights. In the area of women and the environment, apart from the other challenges that women have, it has not helped that there have been natural crises, climate change, and other things that have highlighted and enhanced the plight of women already. And so all of these challenges have not been because effort has not been put, but there have been some specific circumstances that we must watch out for. And I want us to take a look at these circumstances, these challenges. Please, could the slide move on to the challenges? It's sad to announce that no country has achieved gender equality after 25 years, but we are hopeful. The overall picture has been slow, implementation has been uneven, not even prioritized in some cases, multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. Women have experienced this, lack of resources, persistent conflicts, global financial crisis, high energy prices, climate change, even pushback has been some of the problems. And to crown it all of recent, the COVID-19. So this is the future we want. Please could the slide be moved to the future we want? The next 25 years going forward. This is 2020. We are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action, which means we have 10 years left before the end of Agenda 2030, where we hoped that inequalities would have disappeared. Are we going to make it? I think we could. I really think we could. Now, we could if we did some of these suggestions that I have here. First thing is multilateralism. And I want to encourage the UN women. I am just grateful for what they have been doing, but I want to really encourage us that we must work more. We must strategize. We must strategize and partner, form partnerships with organizations that are true believers and true supporters of the empowerment of women. I know that there are some organizations that claim to be for the empowerment of women and the girl child, but I'm sad to say that some of those organizations, unfortunately, are just out there for their own bellies, and they are using and exploiting the passion for the empowerment of women and the girl child for their own pockets. We must be careful to watch out and uproot such organizations. We must be careful not to partnership with such organizations and waste resources. I also want to talk again and remind us that we need to be rebooting after the COVID-19. Again, the best solution there is partnershiping. I want to talk to us about strategically using what we have right now while planning for the future. I want to thank us for all the plans that we have to encourage women and the girl child to participate and get more involved in the sciences, in technology, in engineering and math. But I want to say that this is not so easy in the developing countries where there is not enough infrastructure. However, what we do have though worldwide is a situation where we have a lot of women involved in the liberal arts. And so we shouldn't neglect that, because guess what? The court clerk today, who is likely a woman, if we encourage and sponsored her, she could become the judge of tomorrow. I want to also encourage us to take a holistic empowerment in the approach of women. We must seek, yes, we must seek to empower her economically, academically, and even with her health issues. But we must put more effort in empowering her to protect herself, to stand up for herself, and to help other women stand up as well. What good would it profit us if we empower her and then she's not protected? She becomes like a city that is developed, but has no defense. I want to also talk, and please, can we have the slide on? I want to also talk about the diaspora effect. From all the statistics that we have gathered, and I'm only going to name a few. According to CNN, a fifth of all African-born physicians work overseas. Brain drain in Africa is a problem. Why am I putting this up? Because of all the 12 pillars where equality had to be achieved for women in all the 9 regions, the regions in Africa systemically fall short. Systemically are usually the last. I want to talk about the African diaspora factor, Africans helping Africa. According to the BBC, diaspora remittances to the African continent in 2010 surpassed all the international aid that Africa received from organizations. How can we, my sisters, I'm calling you my sisters, is a sisterhood of women who want to build nations. What can we do to put institutionalized programs in place so that these diaspora remittances can achieve more? I also want to bring our attention to the fact that UNICEF says in their statistics that by the end of the century, the population of Africa will be 4.2 billion, meaning that 40% of the world's population will be African. So what are we doing to continue to prioritize the empowerment of women and children in Africa? Not because the Africans are beggarly and needy, but because as a matter of common sense, we have learned from the COVID-19 problem that the African problem will become a global problem if we don't pay attention to it. A problem that started in China in a laboratory has become a global problem. So I'm not calling upon people to prioritize the problems in Africa facing the women and children, in particular in sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not coming here begging because we are needy. I'm coming here saying, as a matter of practical common sense, as a matter of human responsibility, as a matter of human morality, we should realize that we are all in this together, and we should work together because the world is connected now with globalism, and therefore a problem in one part of the world becomes a worldwide problem. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Reverend, for your presentation. It was jaw-dropping and very, very true. The problems that exist in the world today exist in the world today, not in one particular country. And I believe 100% that together we can achieve the goals that you have presented to us today. And it's imperative that we make that a priority. And women being the givers of life, we can achieve anything. So together we need to stay focused and follow through with these kind of conversations to put some priorities together. So thank you again for that. At this time, we'd like to introduce Dr. Philomena Kintu, Senior Human Rights Officer and Secretary for the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW-RTD.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. My name is Philomena Kintu from Tanzania. I am a retiree from the United Nations after working for them for 30 years. The topic which is being discussed today on women, especially on women and girls in armed conflict, is really touching my heart, especially as I come from Africa, where armed conflict is widespread. And after witnessing the genocide in Rwanda and reading about Sierra Leone and Liberia, where women suffered a lot, where young girls were tortured, where elderly people were displaced. It is really sad to see that a human being can treat another being in such manner without any kindness, without any heart feeling. This issue has been discussed even before Beijing, because we women, we are the peacemaker. Even in the family, when there is a problem, it is the women who brings the peace. But I'm pleased to inform you that after Beijing, the African First Ladies took initiative to redress and discuss the adultization, what was happening in Rwanda and in Burundi. And by that time, what was happening to women and girls in Sierra Leone and Liberia. They organized a summit called African First Ladies on Peace in Abuja, Nigeria, which was organized from 5th to 7th May 1997 to discuss, among others, to launch various initiatives towards achieving lasting peace in Africa, how to assist women and girls who were affected and being affected by armed conflict, especially in Rwanda, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, and what kind of mechanism should be used to prevent such conflict in Africa. But this discussion was not really, didn't go anywhere because, as you are aware, government changes. And when the government changes, also the First Lady changes. So the issue of the First Lady on the women and children armed conflict died a natural death. However, the African women, other African women continue to fight for good cause on the issue for women and girls living in armed conflict area. This included promoting the economic, political, and social empowerment of women with due recognition, international gender perspective into the mainstreaming of development, and enhancing women effective participation in the process of conflict prevention. Therefore, I would like to say that during the war, of course, both men and women suffer in a different way. However, women suffer more. Women and girls suffer more. These people, especially the soldiers who attacks women, they suffer physically, emotionally, and they suffer all forms of sexual violence, torture, rape, mass rape, sexual slavery, and enforced prostitution. This happened in Rwanda. I saw it, I witnessed, because I come from Tanzania, on the border of Tanzania and Rwanda. Therefore, I saw all these things happening. It was a sad issue to see a woman being cut their breast, to see a young girl, 12 years, being raped by 10 people, really, and you think, is God there or not? But we trusted God and say, things will be all right. Therefore, my sister and my brothers, we have to do something to stop this kind of conflict. As you are aware, in Africa, the conflict is widespread everywhere. Look at the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Look in the Central Africa, women still suffering. 3 years ago, I was in Congo. I spoke to women. They really needed help, but they did not have anywhere to go or to ask help because nobody really paid attention. Although the government did, but it wasn't enough. Therefore, we have really to support these women. Although they are the international agreement which set standards that protect women's rights, but the suffering of women during the conflict continue, especially in DRC, continue. I'm not sure in Central Africa, but I understand also continue, because I haven't been to Central Africa, but I've been to DRC. But how do we end these things, my dear friends? To end the culture of impunity for crime committed against women and girls during the armed conflict, where included international law, especially the International Tribunal for former Yugoslavia and the International Tribunal for the Rwanda, both broke new ground in the area of jurisprudence on sexual violence under international law by convicting individuals of using rape as an instrument of genocide and a form of torture, and recognizing rape as a crime against humanity. The 1998 Rome Statute of International Criminal Court, ICC, prohibits rape, sexual slavery, enforcement, prostitution, forced pregnancy, and other all forms of sexual harassment. However, despite all these things, this still continue, with peacekeeping being there, with government soldiers being there, but women and girls still suffer. But since 1995, the awareness of the impact of armed conflict on women and girls, including the role of sexual and gender-based violence and women contributing to peace process, has increased significantly. This included gender equality issues in conflict prevention, peacekeeping, peace building, humanitarian situation, and post-conflict reconstructions. I would like to speak about the Beijing. The Beijing Conference of 1995 identified women and conflict as one of the 12 critical areas of concern to be addressed by member states, the international community, civil society. It goes on government, international community, and civil society, including the NGOs and the private sectors, to take strategic action inter area in relation to the effect of armed conflict and other conflict on women, including those living under foreign occupation. The Beijing Platform for Action recognized that peace was unacceptable, linked to equality between women and men and development, and emphasized that women and girls should be involved in effort for prevention, and that resolution of armed conflict was essential for promotion and maintaining peace and security. The Platform for Action set out some strategic objectives. 1A, increasing the participation of women in conflict resolution at decision-making level and protection women living in the situation of armed conflict and conflict under the foreign occupation. B, promote nonviolent from conflict resolution and reduce the incidence of human rights abuse in conflict situation. C, promote women contribution to fostering a culture of peace. D, promote protection assistance and training to refugees women and displaced women in need of international protection. E, protect assistance to women of colonies and non-self colonies. My brothers and sisters, what shall we do to help our women? Since the First World Conference in 1995, there have been remarkable development in terms of expansion of international normative and the policy framework on issues related to women and girls in armed conflict. This included the United Nations Security Council 1325, which was not specifically addressed in the Platform for Action because by that time the resolution was not adopted yet. However, the issue of women in armed conflict was also recognized by the World Conference on Human Rights held in Vienna, Austria in 1993, which recognized violence against women during armed conflict as a violation of human rights. Then the 23rd special session of General Assembly entitled Women, 2000 Gender Equality, Development and Peace for the 21st Century, reaffirmed the Platform for Action and called for full participation of women in decision-making at all levels in peace process, peacekeeping, and peace building. It also called the protection of girls in armed conflict, especially for prohibition of forced recruitment. My brothers and sisters, how can we help these women? I would like to say that in my conclusion that I would like to emphasize that our commitment as women to work towards lasting peace should be stability and development in our continents, especially in Africa, where the conflicts are widespread in accordance with our programs of activity. By 1, this is what I would like to emphasize. And also I would like my sister Pumzi to take into consideration and see to these women, how can we all, you, me, international community, the government, NGOs, how can we assist them? Because really they are in a need. I would propose to promoting initiatives that enhance peace in our respective countries, assisting in ongoing conflict prevention, management and resolution efforts aimed at re-establishing peace in conflict areas through peace mission, calling on parties to armed conflict in our continent to prevent the recruitment of child soldiers. How do you see a young boy, 12 years old, to go to fight for the war? This happened in Sierra Leone. So many mothers cried, lost their children, lost their daughters, lost their mothers, lost everything. These things should be stopped. Strong condemning child prostitution and call on the international community to take further measures to prevent such activities. Strong condemning the illegal trafficking on arms across borders, because sometimes we don't know where, I don't know where the arms come from, but I know in Africa, they bring some arms from different countries, which I don't know from where. This should be stopped. We have to urge our government not even to bring such things in our country, because it really destroy our life, destroy our mothers, destroy our economy, destroy everything of life. And then strong condemn initiating and promoting programs for economic and political empowerment of women for full participation in political process. As the speaker who spoke before me, she mentioned about women participation in peace, in decision making. It is true. At the moment, we have women who are in a high position, in political position, but it is not enough. We need more women at the decision-making level, especially with regard to peace processing. We need more and more. Very few women are there, but not many. And 6, ensuring that women are involved in decision-making at all levels, including as a special envoy, specially representative of conflict resolution, peace negotiator, peacekeeping, peace building, as well as the process of reconciliation and reconstruction. 7, encouraging public sensitization and introduction of education on peace, human rights, democracy, rule of law, as well as culture of tolerance at all levels of education. Strongly recommend to our African governments and the international organization to provide appropriate and adequate health and social educational facilities to women and girls who are the victims of conflict. 9, the quest, this is my favorite, and this Madam Pumzi should take it up with the Secretary General. Requested the Secretary General of UN in collaboration with the Secretary of African Union to forming a committee of African women as a team of fact-finding and mediators to respond to crises that threaten peace and stability in Africa. Why am I emphasizing this? Because during Rwanda, where I participated as a fact-finding, I went there. I met few women. They said, Madam, because I speak Swahili, they speak Swahili, I speak Kinyarwanda, they speak Kinyarwanda. It was very easy to communicate. It was very easy to listen to them. But when they send foreigners, I'm not trying to be like, I don't like them. But when you send some people, we African people, we have a kind of respect. We don't want to tell our problems to everybody. We don't want to tell our problems, especially when it regards sexual things, to everybody. You tell somebody whom you trust. Therefore, when they are sending somebody on fact-finding, they should take some Africans, especially from that region, especially from that area. Then they will communicate. They will get more information from those victims. Otherwise, they will not get anything. For example, a friend of mine from Sudan, Rukia, she's dead now. She went to Yugoslavia, and those women, they didn't say a word to her because she was a stranger, and they were not feeling comfortable with her to tell them what is happening. Therefore, Madam Pumzi, if you are listening, please, we people, we women, we can write a letter to the Secretary General requesting him, when there is a conflict in any country, any continent, they should send some people who come from that continent. And the 10th, mobilizing resources for women and girls victims of conflict, building and strengthening linkages with existing peace and humanitarian initiative, mechanism, and ensuring follow-up. My sisters and my brothers, the issue of armed conflict in Africa, it is really pain, and it hurts my heart because I have seen it. I have witnessed it. I have seen how women suffer. Therefore, it is not only the government, it is also our responsibility. It is your responsibility, it is my responsibility, it is the government's responsibility, it is a teamwork of our responsibility. Therefore, I would appeal to you all to commit ourselves to see how we can bring peace in this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kintu. As mentioned in all the other presentations, and that will be probably throughout this entire presentation, this is a challenge for folks to get involved. You're either at the table or on the menu, and you obviously know that it's much better to be at the table and be a part of the decision-making throughout the world. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So this is, again, a global challenge for everyone to get involved and be a part of the change that we want to see. So thank you again, Dr. Kintu. At this time, please allow me to introduce Dr. Olo Sakin, I believe, President, Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association out of Nigeria. And she will be talking about the SDG 16 on women and peace.
Your Excellencies here present, ladies and gentlemen, I would say good day, because I know we're from different parts of the world. Firstly, I must apologize because you won't be seeing my presentation. I just arrived in Nigeria from US after getting stuck for like 8 months. And I just had to put this together. I must commence by paying special compliments to the United Nations on this auspicious occasion of its 75th anniversary. Walking through the history of the United Nations, it is an incontrovertible fact that the multilateral institution has achieved tremendous successes in the last 75 years. It is difficult to imagine a world without United Nations. Next, I wish to commend the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, who is building on the solid foundation laid by its predecessors and has continued to encourage consultations, solidarity, and dialogue. More importantly, he has accorded particular attention to issues pertaining to the female gender. Amongst others is the choice of a woman, Mrs. Amina J. Mohammed, as Deputy Secretary General to the United Nations. Its Chief of Cabinet is also a woman, among other important positions into which he has appointed women. So I must really commend him for that. As we all know, the Sustainable Development Goals is a global agenda approved by heads of government to replace the Millennium Development Goals. And my emphasis today is on women and peace. Year 2020 has been continuously emphasized by the United Nations as a year of listening and learning, which is the prime reason for this discussion. Because, as we all know, without peace, there can be no development. The UN is evidently in a race to achieve the ambitious 2030 agenda by mobilizing more governments, civil society, businesses, and calling on all people to make the global goals their own. The SDGs is premised on the fact that for the world to achieve sustainable development, we must be united in the pursuit of peace, stability, human rights, and effective governance based on the rule of law. The SDGs also address disturbing incidents like armed violence, insecurity, and other criminal conducts like sexual violence, crime exploitation, conflicts, and torture. Goal 16, as we all know, addresses prosperity, peace, human rights, all forms of violence, insecurity, strengthening of gender equality, and inclusiveness, particularly participation of the developing nations in institutions of global governance. Foregoing study that came 3 years before the commencement of the SDGs forms part of what is driving the agenda today. It is now widely known, as indicated in the report, that investing in women and girls increase productivity in this generation and will promote sustainable growth, peace, and better health for the next generation. It goes on to emphasize the importance of gender equality and female empowerment, as well as more equitable outcomes for girls and women in the implementation of development programs that must consider the interests of women in its implementation. I must say that the importance of female gender, particularly to societal development, is enormous. Women contribute the roles of wives, mothers, sisters, sisters-in-laws, and must be in charge of the home front. We women as spouses and mothers have very enormous roles to play in fostering peace and harmonious coexistence. As far back as 1995, the global community at the Beijing Conference on Women adopted a 46-point platform of action, part of which stressed the need for governments to utilize women more in taking positive steps to ensure peace in recognition of the leading role that women have played in the peace movements. It is glad to note that this is now happening even in multilateral institutions. It is also good to know that governments all over the world are increasingly recognizing the importance of women to development, peace, and progress. Personally, I perceive a bright future for the world through inclusiveness as contained in the SDGs to empower women and involve us women more in the implementation of grand peace and welfare schemes. For instance, I represent the Poor Wives Association, Nigeria, and as an NGO, what we do is that we project many programs that help to foster peace within our society. One of our speakers talked about some NGOs not living up to expectation. I mean, they collect funds and they don't do what they are supposed to do. For Defense and Police Officers Wives Association, we have been equal to the task of empowering women and girls in different vocational skills because we know that when women and girls are engaged, they will be productive within the society, and they will stay away from social vices. And of course, being engaged, having something to do is very paramount in the progress of any society. So we are, doing what we are expected to do as an NGO. Also, apart from empowering girls and women, we have welfare schemes for vulnerable people and the less privileged, physically handicapped people within our society. And we have been sensitizing girls, especially, like I said, against social vices. We have been equal to the task because even during the pandemic, we have been giving out palliative, that's food and basic necessities to the needy within the society. And even right now, we are planning to give up to 1,000 women, girls, and the vulnerable people within the society food items and some basic needs. And like I said, we've been living up to expectation for peace to reign in any society. It is important. Even during this pandemic, DIPOA has been paying their teachers because we have a school. We have been paying our teachers 100% salary because we know they have to feed their children too. So the key objective is to improve the lives of the citizenry and build resilient economies as well as human resources. From all indications, women have huge roles to play in ensuring peace all over the world because of our very strong influence as pivots of family units. We require peace to implement the SDGs. Without peace, no development occurs, like I said earlier, and without development, the decade of action becomes a mirage and the future gets threatened. Women, we have to stand up. We have to collaborate with implementation agencies at all levels of government and the civil society to forge common fronts designed to make the SDGs, particularly Goal 16, fruitful at the end of the day. I am happy to remark that women out there in public and private concerns are making their marks and proving that what a man can do, a woman can do better. But there are millions of women in remote parts of nations of the world who need to be brought out of poverty. There are millions of women and girls who need to be educated and liberated from several ills that militate against their development. Before going further, let me commend the Kaduna State Legislature for passing a bill for the castration of rapists. The issue has become an embarrassing crime. We must lobby the appropriate bodies through our NGOs and female parliamentarians for legislations that will address crime against women and girls and make criminals pay very heavy penalties for their silly actions. Very certainly, it would profit our society for other states in Nigeria to take drastic actions and even all over the world to curtail this crime perpetrated by criminals who deserve no compassion. We've heard of instances of men raping 6, 8, 12-month-old girls. It's just appalling. Let me most respectfully say that the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under the leadership of His Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, has made intensive efforts to promote the interests of women and children through policy and program initiatives. This development therefore calls for the involvement of not only governments, but also NGOs, civil society organizations, and women groups, to mention but a few, to actively support the efforts of rural people, to embrace those values and capabilities that will support the achievement of the SDG targets within the time frame of 2030. For peace championed by women to reign all over the world, and for goal 16 of the SDGs to succeed, we must sponsor dialogues on women emancipation as clarion calls for clearer understanding of the roles expected of women in peace progress and building our societies. Finally, indeed, the situation is fast changing with the emergence of female heads of state and presidents. Commonwealth Secretary General and UN Deputy Secretary General, among other important positions of responsibility. However, a lot has to be done to get women to shake up the huge deprivations of the past and aspire to the same heights that men have attained for the world to emerge a better planet, enveloped by peace and development. Thank you so much for this opportunity to put in my contribution. I wish every one of us a nice outing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We appreciate your presentation. At this time, we have Dr. Shannon Marquez, Dean of Undergraduate Global Engagement at Columbia University, 25 years of the BDPA, Women and COVID-19 Challenges and Experiences.
Thank you. I'm just going to share a few slides. So if someone could enable the screen sharing right now to give me the ability to share my slides. It says the host has disabled that for me. I hope you're seeing them.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you, Dr. Shannon. Apologize for the delay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm so pleased to be here today for this historic Africana Women Work Group shared forum in honor of the 75th anniversary and the International Day of Peace, with the theme focused on gender roles and shaping peace together. In this regard, I'm also very honored to focus my remarks today on the biggest global challenge confronting the world today, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the challenges and experiences of women, as well as efforts to shape the world for a peaceful habitation for all women. I've been so moved by the sisters who have presented before me, so much so that I'm filled up as I think about this awesome task that we have. And so it is indeed an honor to give these remarks on, as I mentioned, the biggest challenge of our lifetime. But I thought in doing so, it would be great to really put faces on this issue, because oftentimes we talk about things in the abstract. And I want to really reflect on the women around the world who I've had the privilege of working with and visiting, women who, like you and me, understand the importance of this moment in time, but also we're already facing significant challenges and burdens, as was mentioned by the previous speakers. So as countries around the world begin to work to contain the spread and overall impact of COVID-19, we must also really remind ourselves that women and girls often face more negative impacts in general, and then there's a grave risk that the existing gender gaps could widen during and immediately after the pandemic. This is really a critical time because the progress that we've made over the past decade can easily be reversed in the face of the pandemic if we're not intentional about focusing on the gender dimensions of this pandemic and support women and girls throughout the COVID-19 emergency response and the economic recovery. And especially in the context of peace, this day is symbolic of putting armed conflict on lockdown, settling disputes and political differences so that we can focus on this most pressing issue. The fact that the COVID-19 pandemic is harming health, social and economic well-being worldwide with women at the center. And so it's fitting that we reflect on this in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. As the previous speaker just mentioned, there's progress to be made before 2030. And this could be a huge setback for us as we begin to think about really and truly women are disproportionately being impacted by these burdens. And we know before this pandemic even hit us, we were already challenged to the point where we had to really redefine our agenda to ensure that we were being intentional around these 17 goals. Across the globe, we know that women are earning less, they're saving less, they're holding less secure jobs, they're more likely to be employed in the informal sector. They've had less access to social protections, and the majority who are also maybe single parent households are also having a disproportionate burden on top of that. The capacity to absorb economic shock is therefore less than that of men. I'm thinking about Urusi from Tanzania, whom I met last year, who told me about her trials and tribulations living in a very rural community, unable to really help support her children, but also suffering from many of the burdens of that community. Now, I do a lot of work in environmental health and global health, really around the nexus of water and sanitation and access to food and nutrition and health. And so as I think about the context of these challenges, and I think about Urusi, it occurs to me that this is a difficult time for everyone, but even more so when you were already left disenfranchised, when we were already trying to address and bridge these gaps. First and foremost, women also shoulder much of the burden at home, taking the lead in bringing the gaps as school and childcare facilities remain closed. And so bridging those gaps is important, and the role of women is really critical. I'm sitting at my kitchen table. This kitchen table became a schoolhouse beginning in March. I was also tasked with still working, but also facilitating school, having to cook and take care of the family all at the same time. And I imagine that burden for me, which is minimal in comparison to women in the world who were already challenged and disenfranchised. So this gender gap is exacerbated, particularly by the existing inequalities and also inequalities in unpaid work, especially given the sacrifices that women make when it comes to their role in childcare and caring for sick family members. And now, as I mentioned, homeschooling. I'm reminded of a nursery school in India I visited a couple of years ago where the women actually routinely brought their young infants to the school and helped with supporting each other and even in the teaching. And at this point in time, the little bit of support they received as a community together, those sisters sharing together, imagine with the age of now the physical distance, the social distancing, and the disproportionate burden they already faced, a very big challenge we're facing around the world. And women who had the opportunity to work outside of the home are also facing higher risks of job and income loss during this crisis. The pandemic means that women in Africa that I've met around the continent, in the 32 countries that I've worked in, and other developing regions really could lose years of success in contributing to household incomes and asserting their independence and expanding financial inclusion. Like Brenda, who started a small business in Kenya. She actually was able to really convert her small business into a commercial farm that employed many people in her community. She was able to really create an income and generational income and pull herself out of poverty. And in the face of this pandemic, many women who had started businesses, like the women in Kenya who started businesses making trapezoidal bricks to build latrines, and with improved access to water and some training, they created a sanitation marketing scheme. And we're now helping to build improved latrines in nearby communities, generating wealth and generating an income and livelihoods. All of this is profoundly impacted by this big challenge that we are facing today. As schools close as part of the containment efforts, it also may lead to many girls that already experience pressure to drop out, to stay out of education permanently, and to never return to school. I'm thinking about the young girls I've met along the border of Malawi and Mozambique, who early morning hours would wake up to fetch water 2 and 3 times before making it to school, because this dire circumstance in their community meant that there was a task of fetching water that had to be completed to meet the needs of the family for cooking and hygiene and for basic living. And these young girls actually were already fragile in that they would wake up at 4 and 5 in the morning to make this long journey and trek back and forth 2 and 3 times just so that they could collect enough water in the day so that they could be free to go to school. And I imagine now, as school closed as part of this containment effort, their situation is also quite critical. The opportunity for education of the girl child is something that we have to ensure continues in the face of this pandemic. There's also evidence that there are increases in both teenage pregnancy among out-of-school girls and maternal mortality due to the lack of critical resources. Pregnant women are particularly vulnerable in this context. I am seeing the stories time and time again where women are simply not getting the services that they need because health systems are stressed, society is stressed. On top of that, we know most primary caregivers to the ill are women, as I mentioned, and that further exposes them to the infection because, in fact, if someone should come down sick in their household, culturally, we all take on this role in some way, shape, or form. It's innate. We also know that women are leading the health response around the world. Women make up nearly 70% of the healthcare workforce at the bedside, exposing them to a greater risk of infection. My dear Gambia, where I spend most of my time, I'm thinking about Mary Joof and the nurses in Bruford in the Gambia who really are facing this challenge. The situation is quite dire because they already were really volunteering and really giving their time in many ways to help women in the community deliver safely, to help and support those who were vulnerable. And in the face of this pandemic, women are bearing that burden. I just ask that someone mute. I feel like there's some distraction in the background. So if you can all mute your mics. So with the shift in resources toward addressing the public health emergency, there's also disruptions to key health services for women and girls, such as reproductive and sexual health services. Reports are emerging that many low and middle income countries on steep declines in facility-based birth during the strict lockdowns. So we are making strides trying to ensure that women, particularly with their first delivery, having more access to healthcare facilities so that they could have an attended birth. But with the lockdown, with the strict lockdowns in the face of the pandemic, and also due to the fear of contracting coronavirus among birthing women and their families, there's just also an inability to secure transportation. There's so many obstacles. This is actually turning into a dire situation for women, particularly with regard to maternal and child health. Also, though, we know that capacity in hospitals is also limited because hospitals are overwhelmed with trying to provide healthcare to address the pandemic. In some countries where coronavirus is largely spreading and continuing to spread, many hospitals have been forced to stop accepting patients as staff have become infected and the hospitals themselves are overwhelmed. And we know that many health systems, as I mentioned, were and have limited infrastructure. So as I think about this, and again, putting faces on this issue, I think about the healthcare facilities around the world, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, where the WHO has done some work to report that there was a limited access to water, sanitation, and hygiene. We were making strides trying to improve this situation. A number of areas required urgent action and, in fact, partnership to develop a plan to address this most pressing issue. Can you imagine now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many of these facilities actually lack basic access to water and sanitation, not only for the patients, but for the staff themselves. So the idea of infection control, the basic actions that are needed to contain the virus are actually lacking. And so with women at the forefront of the bedside, with women at the forefront of this issue, this means that women are being disproportionately impacted. This very basic issue, which existed before the pandemic, is something that continues. So the work that we were doing, looking at helping to provide safe water and sanitation services in healthcare facilities, it's had to be set aside during this time period. I'm thinking about all those areas where it's difficult now to really promote improved hand washing behavior because there's a lack of access. So we know rapid and low cost water services and sanitation are critical. And as I reflect on this problem and the burden that it has on women, we know that young girls and women are impacted the most. That was the case before the pandemic. It exists now. And we have to put these issues at the forefront to have a call to action to address these challenges. We cannot forget about our sisters and the young girls. With the lockdowns and quarantines, women are also at increased risk of violence, exploitation, abuse, and harassment. I'm reminded of the women I met in India and also in Sri Lanka on tea plantations where they were indentured for generations, already in a very, very challenging environment where violence and exploitation already existed. In the face of the pandemic, now being locked down, not able to even actually work on the plantations to generate any income, to have some additional livelihood, women are being subjected to additional violence and exploitation. So now with this as a backdrop, as I think about this Native woman in Mexico, in the mountains of Mexico, this elder who looks really so beautiful and distinguished, but reminds us that we need an urgent call to action, ensuring that all policy responses to the COVID-19 crisis embed a gender lens and account for women's unique needs, responsibilities, and perspectives. We need an urgent call. The international response to the pandemic needs to include a strong focus on the economic justice and rights of women to retain progress made over decades in gender equality. Policymakers should be thinking and worried about how COVID-19 is expected to disproportionately affect women and girls. And well-designed policies need to foster recovery that can mitigate the negative effects of the crisis on women and prevent further setbacks for gender equality. What is good for women is ultimately good for addressing income inequality, economic growth, and resilience. We know women are the backbone of our communities. We know women are the backbone of our society. We know that if we can educate and create opportunity for the girl child, our communities will also grow economically and be more resilient. It is crucial, as a previous speaker said, that policymakers include women in the important discussions and decision-making. It is crucial that policymakers adopt measures to limit the scarring effects of the pandemic on women. And interventions could entail a focus on extending income support to the vulnerable, preserving employment linkages, providing incentives to balance work and family care responsibilities, improving access to healthcare and family planning, and expanding support for small businesses and the self-employed, putting women at the front, at the forefront of this challenge. I thank you today for allowing me to give these short remarks. I want to congratulate the Africana Women Work Group and wish everyone a happy International World Peace Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shannon. Your presentation was very profound, and we certainly do appreciate how you have brought other countries into this presentation by showing the faces of those that have been impacted the most. That's very, very critical. I think COVID-19 has certainly been a challenge for all of us, but it has also been probably a needed, I hate to say that, but it has been an eye-opener. And sometimes we have to have circumstances like COVID-19 to happen to make us realize where we are and how much work we have to do in our world. So thank you again for that. Okay, very good. Okay, please allow me to introduce Rohey Malik Lowe, Lord Mayor of Banjul, Gambia, talking about the challenges of women in leadership.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this important forum. I think my statement will address mostly the first ladies and the women of substance that are present here. Your Excellencies, our First Lady, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a huge honor to speak on this auspicious occasion. I wish to commend all the First Ladies here present for the amazing work you're doing in your respective countries, in complementing the efforts of your governments in the development of your countries. As the first female mayor of Banjul, and by extension, the Gambia, I wish to highlight that the Women Peace and Security Agenda is a major goal for me because it is a very important tool in promoting democracy through the active participation of women in decision-making processes, thus promoting gender justice, equality, sustainable peace, and stable communities. Your Excellencies, many of us look up to you as our mothers, sisters, our eyes and mouthpiece. You have the power to influence decisions that will yield progress if implemented. We continue to commend you, yet encourage you to use the powerful voice you have in championing the Women Peace and Security Agenda. Gender is a relevant proportion of peace, and women have a fundamental stake in building peaceful communities. Our contributions to peace and conflict resolution should be encouraged and supported. Given our economy and political marginalization, we are not always well equipped to play a very effective role, at least in the context of the Gambia. But Madam Moderator, before going further, let me congratulate the government of the Gambia for the establishment of the Ministry of Women and Children Affairs. This shows that we are now taken seriously. However, if we are more committed in strengthening our policies and commitments to gender equality and gender perspectives in peace building, we will be able to advance sustainable peace across the globe. Your Excellencies, peace is essential to achieve gender equality and the empowerment of women. And I must say Gender equality is very crucial for sustainable peace. Both go hand in hand. We cannot build a peaceful and inclusive society without acknowledging the fact that sexual and gender-based violence is common during conflicts. Yet, we continue to be marginalized in peace and security processes, mostly when it comes to decision-making. However, we continue to see how the participation of women in peace and conflict resolution contributes to build more peaceful and inclusive societies. Even though our capacities are underutilized. In conclusion, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank the organizers for having such a wonderful, a powerful platform to discuss the role of women in shaping peace. I am with the conviction that our First Ladies present here today will not only continue to amplify the voices of women in decision-making processes, but our efficient and active participation towards collectively shaping peace. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to read a quote from Hillary Clinton, and I quote, "When women participate in peacemaking and peacekeeping, we're all safer and more secured. And when women participate in politics of their nations, they can make a difference." End of quote. Therefore, I will end by saying, long live my woman comrade, and I thank you all.
Okay, so if we would have General Christine Thomas, Gender Advisor, Defense Headquarters, speak now, that would be awesome.
Good afternoon. I'm Brigadier General Christiana Thomas, the Gender Advisor, Defense Headquarters, Nigeria. I'm delighted and honored by your invitation to participate at this significant event as a voice and representative of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. I bring you greetings from the Chief of Defense Staff, General Abayomi Gabriel Olonishakin, Nigeria Army Medal. Permit me to congratulate the organizers of this auspicious event as we mark the 75th anniversary of the United Nations General Assembly. Shaping peace together, like the theme suggests, is a task that requires a concerted effort on the part of everyone, inclusive of all genders. According to the United Nations, women and girls make up half of the world's population. Therefore, there are a formidable group whose voice and input is relevant if we are to shape peace together. We cannot afford to sideline women and girls by not promoting gender-inclusive policies and opportunities for all. Women and children and girls pay the highest price in times of conflicts, which are gross human rights abuse. We must not allow their protection becomes politicized, as it will be a costly mistake. We must promote gender equality in practical way by giving equal access to opportunities for both men and women. In my role as the gender advisor and representative of Defense Headquarters Nigeria, it is imperatively clear that for a peaceful society to exist, it is important that we uphold gender equality that allows both men and women the opportunity to reach their full potentials. The United Nations for the past 75 years through its dedicated UN Women Arm established in July 2010 has shown through research that empowering women spur economic growth and productivity. At this junction, let me use this avenue to intimate all, both international, regional, and national partners on the responsibility, roles, and some activities of the Office of Gender Advisor at the Defense Headquarters, Nigeria. The Office of the Gender Advisor was created by the current Nigeria Chief of Defense Staff, General Abayomi Gabriel Olonishakin, Nigerian Army Medal, in January 2019. It will be recalled that the Armed Forces of Nigeria made a commitment to joining the Women, Peace and Security Chief of Defense Network established in 2017. Consequently, in May 2019, the Chief of Defense Staff attended the meeting of Women, Peace and Security Chief of Defense held at the United Headquarters in New York. The need to create more awareness on women in peace and security among participating armed forces was brought to the front burner during the meeting, and to evaluate the progress of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 in the armed forces. Some of the gender roles include the gender advisor's role, include incorporation of military contributions to United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security and its related resolutions. The Agenda Advisor provides necessary policy guidelines on gender mainstreaming and inclusiveness in all phases of military operations. It is worthy to mention that in September 2019, the Defense Headquarters Nigeria organized its maiden annual conference on women, peace and security. The conference has its theme, Gender Mainstreaming in the Armed Forces of Nigeria for Peace and Security. At the forum, issues on gender mainstreaming in military operations, strategies to implementing women, peace and security agenda in Nigerian armed forces, as well as sexual exploitation and abuse in internal and external operations were extensively discussed by the participants drawn from national and international organizations, as well as other stakeholders within and outside the military. The DHQ Gender Office is currently drafting the gender policy for the Armed Forces of Nigeria, which on completion and subsequent approval, the policy document will further address the gender issues and concerns for the smooth implementation of women, peace and security commitments within the Nigeria military. Also, the Defense Headquarters Gender Advisor is working closely with the gender advisors in 3 services, namely Nigerian Army, Nigerian Navy, and Nigerian Air Force gender departments, to ensure all-round gender inclusiveness in the armed forces of Nigeria. Global peace cannot be achieved without collectively working together. The whole world during this pandemic has witnessed a drastic rise in the cases of gender-based violence. Violence against women is a pandemic affecting all countries, even those with laudable progress in other areas. Indeed, as global and regional fora, countries continue to make remarkable commitments on gender equality, but needs to be more improved upon with requisite financial support and political will. Going by the Sustainable Development Goal 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, known as a standalone gender goal. This is a demonstration of the United Nations paying attention to women and girls issues. Empirical evidences have shown that whenever women participated in a peace process, it lasts longer, with at least 35% for about 15 years, according to the United Nations Department for Economic and Social Affairs. Undoubtedly, without solid foundation of peace, development is uncertain. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to come out and discuss something on this issue, shaping peace together. Thank you for all listening.
Thank you very much, General Thomas. Thank you also for your service on behalf of everyone here today.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Pastor Lowell, Global President, 1000 Women in Religion for Global Peace.
Good morning, everyone, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, His Excellencies, Excellencies, our great women and women in services. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Happy Peace Day to everyone. I can see all my people, Dr. Barista, Dr. Olanishakin, God bless you. And Dr. Ada, thank you for giving us the privilege. And all our UN representatives, I'm so happy to be with all of you today. Thank you for great meeting and great deliberation. I want to thank all the speakers that have gone before me this morning. Everyone has actually nailed it on the cross. Women are the power for any continent. Women are the one that actually, stand to hold the planet the way we are. We are the living brain for our community. This morning, my mission is to share with you the mission and the vision of 1,000 Women in Religion for Global Peace, what we have done so far in alignment to the theme for this year. And this year is it's supposed to be learning, listening and learning, but because of the pandemic, the focus has shifted. And the shift also is something good for us to look into as what we have been deliberating about for 2020 to meet the 2030 agenda of UNSCR 1325. The landmark resolution for women for peace and security is actually something very important for all of us to look at. It includes full involvement of women in every effort for the maintenance and promotion of peace and security. If I can just have my slides so I can go through some of the words quickly, otherwise I can share from my end here. 1,000 Women in Religion for Global Peace. I will just go through the slides quickly because I know our time is going so far. Shaping peace together with the world women. What is our mission and vision as 1,000 Women in Religion? I actually want to lay the foundation over what Dr. Shannon has just said about women empowerment. And this is focused on the vision of 1,000 Women in Religion for Global Peace. This was a vision that came after our former Secretary General for United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, called on civil society to come up with programs and initiatives to ensure the success of sustainable development goals. And I and Dr. Ada was thinking, what can we do, as a ministry that are in consultative role with the United Nations? We cannot just be there just as a ministry. We have to focus on our women and girls child. So it is very important for us to bring women and girls in religion to focus discussion and education about the work that United Nations is doing on women. When you look back in our community, a lot of the rural women are not coming to UN, they are not participating in UN. So it is we that are representing these grassroots women that need to go back to our community and begin to educate them on the impact of UN and how they can benefit from it. And this is why 1,000 Women in Religion for Global Peace stand this project, commissioned in 2017, and after the commissioning, we started discussion and we create awareness and initiative. You will see a lot of things that we have done so far in alignment with Sustainable Development Goals and also in alignment with UN mission for women in general. All right, so going forward on what we have done, this is how we begin in 2017. And you can see the picture of all the women that gathered together at the UN that day. So each one of these women, they went back to their countries and to their nations and chapters, and they start opening chapters on educating girls and women in their community. And we also have chaplains that help us with security and protection as well. You can see them in the picture. So our global campaign for peace, this was established, as I said before, to look into peace, religion. This is not only Christianity, this includes Muslim, Buddhism, any religion at all that you can be across the whole world. So we try to reach as many as we can. So since March 2018, we have established chapters and working coordinators both in Nigeria, Togo, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Niger Republic, Hindu religion in India, and also here in New York, United Arab Emirates, South Africa, and Turkey. So over the last year, we have laid structure for operational excellence to have this campaign sustained across all this nation. We have also increased membership to about 280 women from different religions and about 20 members of organizations focused on women issues. And this is an ongoing progress before the COVID started. I've mentioned about this, our alignment, 1,000 women in religion alignment with UNCSR 1325. It evolved about the 17 goals and also the targets and resolution. One of our focus is to look at domestic violence against women and also to look at global education of women and to have an interfaith and harmony week, an International Peace Day, which is today that we are celebrating together. We also have, we participate in UN Days for the Widows. I want to talk a little bit about peace because today is the Peace World Day. Let's look at it together. The greatest thing in life is eternal peace, and external peace and global peace. Peace stand at the key ingredient of happiness. Peace within is peace all around, and that is why we all come together to make this change to happen. If you can instill peace in all our communities, in our boys and girls, we are ready to change the world. Peace starts from within. And for 1,000 women in religion to global peace, this is our pathway to sustainable peace. When you look at religion, most of us, we go to churches, we go to mosques. This is where women gather a lot. And this is why this is very important for 1,000 women religion to use their religious organization to actually talk to women about indication for peace, about what is going on. When you look at our women, even to talk to somebody is very, very important. It plays a very important role to be able to ventilate, to dialogue together, to look at what is going on in the life of women, both at home and in the community. We also form global partners. As Dr. Shannon has just said, we cannot do it alone. We have to all work together to promote peace within our communities and for our country at large. And this continues in the essence of educating women and empowering women on the issues of women's rights. When you go to UN CSW, which we're supposed to have in March, but before, because of COVID, we couldn't have the session. Women's rights is an emphasis that we train our women to know. Economic empowerment, and I will show us some pictures about how we are actually using skills acquisition to help our women to get food and also to providing empowerment through skills for them to have something, petty trade, so that they can have some money to reduce the emphasis on poverty and hunger. It is also the goal of 1,000 women in religion to address communal conflicts on social issues that are coming up in our communities. We also have interfaith dialogue in major parts of our community as well. So we meet with the Muslims, we meet with the Hindus across the nation. We've been to Sudan, we've been to Cameroon, Kenya, and some parts of Nigeria as well. In 2019, we actually launched the Gateway Agenda for Peace. And you can see across the nation, some people in the picture on this slide. This was at the UN in 2019, before the COVID. Now let's talk about some of our chapters at 1,000 Women in Religion. Lagos chapter, Interfaith Peace Education. You can see in this picture, our leader there from the Muslim religion, from Hindu religion, from Christian, and from all other religion as well. The impact that they do on young girls and boys as well. The boys are also included in our education so that everybody take part in defending the peace across the globe. We are also committed to peace above all different levels, contributing to building a culture of peace across the nation. We treat women with equality and respect, and we also give territorial integrity and political independence to women. It is very important that we educate our women to take part in policy and politics. When they understand the policies and politics, they will be able to take position You know, I really thank our first speaker giving us about names, and about 12 names, or maybe more than that, of women that are presidents and leaders in their country. This will help us to actually look at political independence and how we can teach our young girls and young boys on getting into the front line of politics and policies. This also will promote peace and prevent conflicts in our society. As 1,000 Women in Religion also, we surround our initiative with the 5 P's of Sustainable Development Goals. What are these 5 P's? Looking at people, prosperity, peace, which is the center of why we are having this program today, and partnership as well, and looking at the planet. And all these surround the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I will not go into all these goals into details, but I will take the part that 1,000 Women in Religion has been working on. Goal number 3, goal number 5, and also we are working on goal 16, peace and justice and strong institution, as well as partnership, which is goal number 17, with individual organization. This is just a slide about the SDG goals and targets so that we understand, you know, how we can meet these targets as organization. As one of the speakers has highlighted, action is very, very important. Enough of our say, we need to really put our actions into place right now. As you can see in this picture, during the pandemic, we shifted into helping young women in the community. This is actually one part of Nigeria, to distribute what Nigerians call palliative to all these young women that are pregnant. Some of them are pregnant and they still have babies, and you will see some of them also in the maternity ward. This is helping us to meet the goal of maternal and child health as part of the SDGs goal for 1,000 Women in Religion to meet the goals. This is also part of the initiative to distribute gifts to the hospitals, because the hospitals has reached their fullest capacity. There was not much PPE for them, not even supplies for them to use for the patients. So we use some of our initiative to contribute to the need of these people. And you can see on this slide also, community health and wellness outreach. Most of these women, they have young children too. And the children, when they are sick, they don't have enough money to buy medication for the women. So during this pandemic, we were able to supply medications and medical outreach for the women and for their young children to use during the pandemic. How can we create achievements and reinforce humanity? We need to keep moving, we need to keep working. That is what the emphasis in this picture shows. And not only that, we also went into the area of sanitation, because women, they are the heart. When you look at women, women are in the house, women are in the marketplace, women at their job, but cleanliness is next to godliness. And cleanliness is also part of the peace. And that is the reason why we also choose clean environment, educating even our own health officials, the police, the people in authority, so that they can help us maintain clean environments to prevent sickness and diseases. In Sudan, we actually gather women together for empowerment, skills acquisition. And you can see some of the picture of these women coming to learn about trading, petty trading, and things that they can do so that they could be able to have enough money to feed their family. We also have Sudan Food Program, distributing food to women that are displaced women in the camp. And these are their picture. And sometimes we teach them how to cook local food so that they will be able to help their family and their children. Now, we also went as far as India to empower our girls' youth in India, and also the boys as well. Provision of books and things that they need to go into education in their country. Now, my call to action, this is the call to action. What do we need to do as organization as we are meeting all today? We need to expand women's participation in peace building and recovery. It is very, very important. We need to provide post-conflict engagement and opportunity to ensure that we agree on some things. Some of our communities, there are new laws, new constitution, that they are reinforcing, but we have to make sure that women are given advanced equality and justice when new laws are enacted in this country. We need to increase the role of women in peace and security. We also need to make sure that justice is served to our women when they need all these things, especially women in Africa. They have taken their land, they have taken their properties, there's nowhere for them to stay, no money. So justice is very, very important. Our next step is breeding peace and prosperity. Breeding peace and prosperous future. And you can see one of our Masha in Nigeria, they're actually having their program also in Nigeria now, marching forward with the market women on how to continue breeding peace across the nation. One of our agenda is to increase membership and active participation of women, and I will open this forum to every one of us listening to my voice this morning to please rethink about Peace Model Initiative. You can join us, 1,000 Women in Religion. We are still growing. We also need to build network of peace across the nation, not only in America, all over the world. Our mission is not to come as a church. Our mission is to promote peace. It's not about promoting Muslim or Christian, but we need to help women to achieve sustainable peace in all ramifications across UN agenda. And this is one of our main focus. All right. Now, we need to learn, teach, and share peace. And everyone here today, I want you to please go into this. We need to learn, teach, and share peace together. We need to believe that peace is for all, and all is for peace. I have a chance to create peace on the earth. I want to ask you this morning, are you a prince or princess of peace? We should be. We should. Prince and princess of peace. It is given to us. So stepping into action. Enough is not just enough. Ideal women in religion, you do not stand alone. We have to model to work together in unity. We need to exchange information and ideas on how to bring peace to our community. We need to identify our community needs. We need to network together to help other women to mature in their faith, either Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, whichever way, because women gather a lot in their religious places. So we need to use that forum to mature and to help these women to grow. We need to bring all women together to support and to pray for them, to pray for our nation. Women leaders, we need to do mentorship and coaching. Mentorship and coaching is very, very important, because when we mentor them, they will be able to train another people. Amen. We have to use what we have been given. We have to embrace how we know. How do we know? We are learning. We are coming to the UN. Whatever information that we receive, we need to go back to give this information to the grassroots women. Understanding peace is all about what we know. We have to go back and give these women what it is that they need to sustain peace. Making the difference. 1,000 Women in Religion for Global Peace. We have come a long way, and I thank all of you for supporting us. But we must keep moving. We cannot just park there. COVID-19 or no COVID-19, we need to move forward. Let's keep the movement of peace forward until we have a peaceful community for all women. And as we keep moving, we continue to establish our platform. Thank you. That's all I have for you this morning. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Lau, and thank you for all of your work. Your presentation was phenomenal, and I'm really excited to be a part of your organization and to continue pushing forward the mission. Peace starts within yourself, and your presentation spoke to that. Watching everybody just think about other people and do for other people because they feel so peaceful within themselves to be able to give back. So that is a very profound message. And I think that your delivery was 100% on point. So thank you for that again.
Thank you,
And
Dr.
thank you
Lisa.
again for all of your work.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa.